Rising Tide Live. We are live. Mike Bisceglia, Richard Liverman. We are filling in for Shawn Walchef today, who is in Las Vegas, the Food on Demand Conference. So today we will be talking about sports and sports biz lessons for businesses. The internet has been unstable for me for the last 3 minutes, so I apologize for everybody who has been waiting. Richard, good to see you. Before we connect, I just want to make a little programming note for people listening, watching. We know that limit of 10 right now into the room. So if you come on in, we'll try to cycle people in and out, and we'll have a great time, Richard. It's great to see you, and it's great to see you in your jersey.
It's the Arsenal jersey. It's a big night for my football club today. We're in the European semi-final of the Champions League. We're currently 1-0 down on aggregate, so we need to win tonight. And I've got the Arsenal shirt on because it's like my lucky shirt. Whenever we win this, we normally win. So I'm very pleased it's been through the laundry, not only for the win tonight, but also to appear on the show today. And I think it's such a great topic. And we're really, really interested to see where it goes today.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun talking about this. And sports in particular, sports biz, entertainment, they have so many ties and connections into business. And we really, as you and I were discussing earlier today, just there's so many different levels what sports can do for your business. I couldn't find any of my jerseys. They were in a spot in my closet that was gone, and my wife rearranged stuff. She said, "You haven't 20 years. How was I supposed to know you were going to do this today?" I said, "Good point, fair." But I do have. I'm rocking my Nets shirt, sweatshirt. Long time now, Brooklyn Net, but New Jersey Nets fan from back in the day. And this is my favorite player ever was Drazen Petrovic, who unfortunately passed in a car accident when I was a kid, but he got me hooked in basketball. So I'm near and dear to him. But Richard, we'll bring members of the community on in just a second. But from your end, your perspective, thinking about just sports and think about it and think about sports, what it does for business. What are some things that initially jump out for you?
Well, I love this topic because I work as a professional coach and mentor, and I always look for, where are those examples, some other fields that you can learn from. And for me, sports and entertainment is so visible, people get it. And I think for me, when you look at a great sports team, it's what's the culture, what's the coaching, who are the right players in there, how do you win fans? And there are so many similarities to running a business. You need to have a great team. You need to have a great culture. You need to win fans, and you want people talking about you in a positive way. And I think for me, there's this deep connection between sport and entertainment and business. And I feel there's so much we can learn from it. And, that's why I'm hoping tonight that the topic sort of lights people up, because I think about my own team, Arsenal, who've got this tremendous history of won so many trophies, played the most fantastic football. And about 6-7 years ago, we changed our manager. He retired and the team was collapsing. The culture of the club, everything that was happening, there was some toxic players. The way we were playing the game was not very good. And they brought this manager in who used to be a player, Super Mikel Arteta. And what he did is he started changing the culture, and he had these non-negotiables, and he got rid of the two best players in the team, the two best players. And as an Arsenal fan, you're like, he's just got rid of a World Cup winner. He's got rid of the captain of the team. And you start asking the question, what is going on? Why is he getting rid of these players? Because they were bringing toxicity to the culture. There was this disconnect between the supporters and the club. He kind of brought it back together, and he's really led by example. And it's a big night for him because this is years and years of work that is coming together in this moment. But when we think about our businesses, it's no different. We've got to create a culture where people perform at a high level. We've got to make sure that we've got a team of people that are really, really there to set up, to deliver the goals and to deliver the wins. I think what's really interesting when you look at the change in the culture of the club, that it has come from this leadership where there is a strategy, there is this high performance, there is all of these demands to get it through. But he's also brought through these young players like Saka, and he's turned them from young apprentices into full-blown internationals. And I think what it's been about has been changing the culture of the club, has been bringing in these non-negotiables, has been bringing this mentality that has totally changed it from being a club with former glories to a club that is challenging at the highest levels. Now, I'm sure there'll be a number of people going, yeah, but Arsenal have only won one trophy in his tenure. Tonight's an opportunity for him to get to a final. What's so interesting is this was a club that was on his knees, and he's changed the culture of it, and he's brought it to a place where it is challenging. And when we think about those businesses and we think about hospitality, for instance, how many restaurants have we seen where the wrong people are in the wrong place, or the culture of the team is just not there? And I think there are all these similarities between business and sport, and what can we learn from them? And for me, I love my club. I absolutely love my club. And if you want to know more about it, there was a brilliant Amazon documentary called All or Nothing. Or tonight, tune in and watch Arsenal go to Paris to try and beat Paris Saint-Germain to get to the final. So just one example of how, you know, I've learned so much from my club and the culture that they're creating that makes me think about how do I bring that into my business? What are the non-negotiables? What is the culture? Who are the people I want to surround myself with? They're all reasons why my team's successful.
Yeah, and I know my internet dipped, so I went downstairs. It seems to be a little more stable down here, but thank you for all of that, Richard. And you got me thinking. We'll bring members of the community up shortly, but I'm a Nets fan, and they had a great culture that was developed, and they went for superstars, and the culture was eroded and corrupted, and you couldn't win. And I think when we look at yes, which was almost a nuclear bomb in a sense in the locker room, and it just it's really fascinating how, if you can get the culture, talent, and then people that want to, buy in, you can really do amazing things. And the one point I'll have is I really think it's important to stay in the moment when building, just like in sports, and think of what that end goal is. But if you think about that end goal without understanding that there's steps to take, you'll skip them and miss them. And now you want to think about the end goal in a certain aspect, but you got to know, like, a little bit at a time.
I thought I'd share just a little bit because obviously I am a massive Americana fan, and I am a Cleveland Browns fan. I got the Cleveland Browns baseball cap, and we're not going to talk about the Browns too much because it's just a horror story. But everybody knows about Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
And you talk about sometimes if you've got a bad hire, you need to get rid of them really, really quickly. And I think there's a conversation there where you can see the parallel between business and sport. And then a couple of years ago, I went to see the Oakland A's. And if you think about the Oakland A's, they're on a tiny budget. With what they did with Moneyball, they managed to compete at the top table. And I think when you look at a business, you start thinking about, okay, if we haven't got the same money as our competitors, how can we use data better? How can we be agile and nimble? How can we hire great people? And I think there are all these lessons from sport, even the Cleveland Browns.
At this point, we'll bring on the rest of the community, and we'll do something a little bit different for today. We'll have some fun with this. I know we want to know who they are, what they're doing, but I'd love also if you want to say who your favorite sports team is, maybe a favorite sports player, and if not, I see Richard shaking his head. I think I have a guess why. And then if not a sports team or player, maybe an entertainer that you find some parallels and like. So we'll kick it off. We'll throw it to Scott because I see the head shaking, so I want to hear this. What's up, Scott?
Mike, thanks for me first, because that image behind Richard's head right now is one image I never thought I'd appear on a show with, but yeah. Anyway, we're on the back of a great weekend. I've had 2 weeks of celebrating, as you can see, champions again. Ole. That is Team Leeds. But I was with 300,000 people in the centre of Leeds on Monday, giving it some serious party. So just recovering. My throat is just recovering, just about getting there. But yeah, lots of fun.
So for you, go ahead, Richard. I see you unmute your mic.
I'm just going to say to Scott, first of all, Leeds United getting promoted, so they'll be playing Arsenal next year, which is very, very exciting. And
easy 6 points.
It's an easy 6 points for Arsenal. That's very true, Scott. one of the questions I've got for you, and I think I already recognise that little picture behind you. You and I talk a lot about sport. What have you learned from Leeds that you bring into your business?
I think you've touched on quite a lot of it, haven't you? But I think one of the things that I really took from it is a couple of things. And I actually wrote a LinkedIn newsletter when I went to visit Shawn in San Diego, because the last thing I did before I got on the flight was to go and watch the Leeds match with the San Diego Whites in the Shakespeare pub in San Diego. And I think one of the things that has an amazing ability to do is to get people globally to have this real affiliation, whether people have been to actually watch the sports on the ground or not. And I think that whole way of how they get the outreach and how they build community and how they really drive this energy and the loyalty to the club is something that is not replicated anywhere else. So I'll give you an example of this fella here. So we went through years at Leeds. We had the glory days. We ended up going down the divisions, and we had owners and investors who came in, and they took the fans for granted. And slowly, those fans dripped away. And for that to happen at Leeds is pretty extreme. This guy here, Marcelo Bielsa, came in, and the first thing he did was, as the coach of the team, he took a group of players who were mid-table, got no investment, and through his leadership and his coaching, he turned these guys around from being average people who didn't think they were going to be able to ever to the Premier League. And he turned them into a group of players who had belief. And that was all driven through his leadership. And I think there's lots of examples where you look at through coaches, great coaches, who take people who can't necessarily see the potential, and through coaching and belief that they instill into them, they get to meet that potential. So that was the first thing he did. But the second thing he did was he used to, in all of his press conferences, embrace the fans. And very quickly, he got the fans on the side. And because of that, slowly, the players got belief. The fans kept coming back. The energy in the city, the energy in the ground just started to build momentum. And towards the end of the first season he was with us, that momentum got to a point where there was nothing. Every single player, every single fan felt we were untouchable. And we thought that anything that this guy said was untouchable as well. And it didn't work out in the first season, but the second season, there was no stopping. And we knew from the minute the first ball was kicked in that season where we were going to end up. And I just think there's a real example of how leadership and belief and then momentum can have such an amazing impact on business that it's something we should all watch. And I think that momentum thing is something that I really value in restaurants, especially. I think when you get a restaurant that has momentum, that momentum can just create huge success. Look what Troy's doing. Pepperoni is a great example of how you can just compound those people who love the brand and talk about the brand, and the momentum just grows and grows. And that's how you create super fans. And I think that would be my one takeaway from this conversation is, how do you create momentum from what you do?
I think what's so interesting about the example you used of Bielsa is, in many ways, it reflects what Arteta's done at Arsenal, in the sense of you've got this absolute giant that has been badly looked after. When you get that leadership team right, they can get extraordinary results from their team. I think what's so interesting is when we think about it from a business context, how do you bring that leadership where you get that belief and you get the absolute maximum out of your team? And that Leeds team, I remember the first season very well. We'll talk about that off air, Scott. There was this bit where Leeds had this momentum, and then you're absolutely right, it carried on. But the reconnection between the team and the supporters was incredible. And I think, it was almost, sometimes we put too much pressure on CEOs and leadership to do something. But in Bielsa's case, he did incredible things that, changed the course of that club from being mediocre to being where they are now.
He has a very famous saying, and I have a GIF. I got Elizabeth a GIF, and it's, "Madman is a madman until his ideas triumph." And I have it up on my wall because I just think it's a brilliant saying. Like, keep being crazy. At one point, that crazy idea is going to be a triumph. And I think, there's lots of quotes you can pull from sport, but I think that's a good one we keep close to our heart.
Perfect. Thank you, Scott. And Troy, we'll go to you. Who are you? And then also favorite sports team or player that you'd like to talk about first.
Yeah, Troy Hooper, CEO of Hot Palate America, ownership group of Pepper Lunch Restaurants. We have 538 stores in 17 countries today, about to add 3 more countries in the next year. So we're on a growth trajectory here in North America and beyond. It's kind of obvious on the professional side, right? So I grew up as a college football fan. I don't care for basketball, baseball, surfing, or any other sport. I think there is only one sport. It's college football. And I grew up as a Miami Hurricane. I have so much stuff that I actually have storage bins in the garage, and we keep them put away except for seasons. So from the end of August till the end of Christmas or 1st of January, depending on how we do, the house is fully decorated in green and orange. But to have sort of a normal lifestyle, we put it away off season.
Is that Mrs. Hooper request, putting it away?
No, yeah, I'm just, it's just obnoxious, right? So we try to, but yeah, I grew up. Look, I went to every single home game I went to every home game for 13 years. I went to every actual game for 11. So 11 of my 13 years of going to every game. I went to every single game for 11 of the 13, every home for 13, and as many as I can, as often as I can now. I just grew up in that space. Very different world. On the pro side, I didn't care about pro football until about 8 or 10 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, probably, and really started to get into it. And I've been a Denver Bronco, even though I'm from Miami. I'm Denver Bronco since 1987 because I knew Dan Marino was full of shit and was never going to take us to Super Bowl. So I gave up on the Dolphins. And, I became a Bronco for some reason. And I have been a diehard Bronco since 1987 officially, but really didn't start following pro sports until about 10 years ago closely or care about it. And now I'm deeply involved in many aspects of such things that I can't talk about. But one of my business partners is a pro athlete. But anyway, yeah, lessons, things you learn.
What are the lessons from the Broncos and the Hurricanes that you've seen and brought into Pepper Lunch in your career? Because I know you kind of got this love of sport, and I just wonder what the parallels and crossover is for you.
Yeah, there's no I in team. It's one of the things I think about a lot. I use the analogies of like head coach, so owner, manager, head coach, coaching staff, team captains. I kind of use those analogies or that structure a lot in how I approach business, how I approach communication with my team. My job is to essentially be the club manager, and essentially head coach too. And so I'm Jerry Jones of I don't own the team, but I have to act like it. So I use that a lot, and I think that the job of the head coach, the job of the manager, is to acquire talent that matches the skill sets and the mindset of the goals. And look, at the end of the day, I actually learned long time ago, you don't hire for skill, you hire for the human. You hire for ambition, you hire for ethic, you hire for moral, you hire for motivation. And so you can teach anybody anything. Proof of young guys coming into a team who are green and need to be taught up and need to be coached and need to be guided, right? So I feel, I do the same thing. And so I just make a lot of those parallels between sports team, particularly football structure, U.S. American football, as you might say, structure, and business. And it humbles me. It keeps me reminded. I'm not the quarterback. I'm not the star on the field. My team members are, our franchisees are, our guests are the fans in the stands, and we got to keep the stands full, and we got to keep them excited and give them things to cheer for. And, so all those analogies can be made. And you have your raving fans, right? And you have your regular fans, and you have your occasional fans, and you always have the opportunity to acquire new fans. So I really do think about sport a lot when I think about how we run our business. And I think it's a universal language that you can use to communicate and people understand it.
Do you know, it's really interesting you say that, Troy, because I caught up with Mike earlier today, and there's a book, and I've talked about it many, many times, and it's called Legacy by James Kerr. And you really need to read it or get hold of it as an audio book, because it's about the New Zealand rugby team. And the New Zealand rugby team are the international sports team with the most wins. They've got an 83% win rate or above. And this guy got to spend 6 to 8 weeks with the team to understand the culture. What is it that made this team so special? And in this book, it's like I said, it's Legacy by James Kerr. We'll find the link and we'll put it up. If you can listen to it or read it, it is fantastic. You don't need to understand about rugby because it's not actually about rugby. And one of the chapters in the book it's called No Dickheads. And it's the policy of that team. And they said, you can be the best player in the world, but if you're a dickhead, you're not in the team. And they have this whole culture. And when you join the team, rugby 1 to 15, when you get given your first jersey with the number on it, they give you a book. And in that book is everybody that's worn that jersey. And they've written a page in this book about what it meant. The very last page, legacy. Your jersey in that book with a blank page, write your legacy. And when you start learning about the culture of this team, this is an island of 4 million people. How have they won more World Cups than any other country? And when you start thinking about that culture, and actually where you would say, well, actually, I'm not the quarterback. I'm there to make my team perform well. When you read the book, it is incredible when you see all these aspects of culture and leadership that come in from sport that come into business. And I love it because Scott and I have talked about this before. No dickheads. Because you have one in a kitchen or one in a business, it kills it. And you think,
well, I'll say this, another parallel is the military, right? And what you made me just think of is, I have business partners. I'm deeply involved with multiple people that are current and former NFL players in a variety of ways. And the reality is, they're some of the best business people you'll ever meet because the discipline, the focus, the intent, the intention, the intensity that they bring to what they choose to do. If they choose after sport to do a business, my goodness, they are just incredible. And you say similar thing for military, right? It's just sort of that discipline. When you think of sport and military, there's a lot of parallels there as well. But I definitely look forward to catching the book. I wrote it down. Thanks for sharing it. I definitely will audiobook that. I do a lot of long drives and flights, so I'd definitely be interested in that.
What's really interesting, my coach gave it to me when I did my training, and I must have given maybe half a dozen copies to people. And it's one of those ones where it's all about understanding culture. And what's fascinating is the same guy, I was saying this to Mike earlier, he's currently with the Sherpas at the bottom of Everest because they've been up Everest more than anybody else. So what is it that allows them to do that? And it's all about learning about how people think. And I know people talk about Atomic Habits and James Kerr, and it's really interesting when you start understanding what makes a great team and what makes a great culture. And if you think about some of the businesses that we've all worked in, why did we stay? Because of the culture. Why did we leave? Because of the culture. And then when we think about it as leaders, what kind of culture are we creating? And I think it's really, really interesting. And the comparison to sport is so similar.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too. Oh, go
Mike,
for it.
Sorry, Scott. What's with this? I listened to you. I swear I did, but it's a little creepy. Like you have this 3D printing. Did you buy?
No,
that?
it's Troy. It's the problem is I'll never let my wife put it outside because it's too valuable. But the funny story about this is we got it. It was when Bielsa was here. Is the god, right, for Leeds, and I refused to let it go anywhere apart from the shelves where we used to eat our dinner table. And I used to tell the kids when they were small, if they ever misbehaved, Bielsa would be looking down on them. So for years, I had the most well-behaved kids because this
is your deity for structure and accountability. Okay.
Did you charge any money? Did you charge any money?
That's amazing. Okay, thanks. Sorry, Mike.
You're good. I'm glad you did.
Back up, Scott.
Yeah, leave it there.
It belongs right there above your name.
I don't want you to feel uncomfortable with his presence.
Well, I do, but that's okay. What's interesting though is when I was watching this and seeing this, the way your name is like over it, I couldn't tell. It looked like to me there was like a virtual person in the background of your room, and I was like, "Is that somebody actually there?"
Yeah.
I'm glad Troy asked, as I was like, I don't know, or am I seeing things? So that was
Does he need to
I
go
thought it was just probation officer.
exactly.
No, he doesn't work after 5.
Exploded in the back. All right, Chris. Yeah, you're up. Love your opinion on the topic, and say your name, what you're working on, and then a sports team you love or a player you're interested in.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Good to see you all. Chris Tripoli, we've met before, restaurantowner.com and the Restaurant Clinic. What I'm working on right now, I guess, is because the big NRA show is right around the corner. I've got a couple presentations I'm doing there. If you guys happen to be there, I'd love to meet up. So I'm doing, on Monday, I'm doing a program on funding the dream, where we are presenting options on finding and raising funds for small companies that are expanding or people who are creating new concepts. That's going to be in the South Building, 505. Monday, starts at 11 in the morning. After that corner booth, my podcast has a booth inside the NRA booth. And we're going to be just having a lot of fun, meeting people as they come by. We're going to be introducing some different guests, playing some different excerpts. So that's going to be some fun. So yeah, those of you that are going, let's talk. Let's meet up. Could be fun. Sports theme and its connection to the industry is fantastic. I think you guys are making a lot of really good points. I've over the years lost interest really in football and basketball. I started out as a huge Houston Rockets fan, season tickets back in their era of greatness, the 90s. Akeem Olajuwon, come on, he was fantastic. Loved the team effect there. We won a couple championships. Loved it. But I've become a lot more since then, more of an appreciator of the strategic situation management that's in baseball. Huge Astro fan. Favorite, I guess, sports person in the last decade for me has been Jose Altuve. He too small to play, and then played. Didn't think they'd be great. Wasn't quick enough. Well, he's won numerous glove awards, and but I think it's behind the scenes. Here's this small guy who's the biggest guy in the dugout. People like him, and people follow his leadership, and so those are one of the reasons that I follow it. But when we talk about sports and their connection to restaurant business, I think I could only just emulate some of the things that you're saying. But what I think I wanted to bring up is maybe sort of a challenge, an issue for us to watch, to see some of the negativity that we might be finding now, the NIL issue and the money now that is becoming more important to college individuals is going to deteriorate a small sense of the team building. We used to really love college sports because of the idea of trying to keep a culture, getting people, grooming them, and being able to see their progression over 3 or 4 years. However, now coaches are challenged with who's going to go into the portal and who's going to get drafted, who's going to get more money if they go to a bigger team in a better conference. And I think that could deteriorate some of the principles that we like to learn from sports, which is win as a team, die as an individual. That's going to be challenged now that we see how money is going to be affecting college sports. So I don't know, it's something to be aware of. But a good example, I think, of the right things that can come from that are pretty good principles from a book. Maybe some of you have already read it, but Auntie Moran's book, Love is Free, Guac is Extra, the story of the culture building at Chipotle Grill. I'm fascinated by some of the sport analogies he made in the book, and I use them daily because, for those of you who know, he started out as the corporate attorney, never worked in restaurants. He understood legal structure, fundraising, and then got involved and became involved in operations. So he was like a blank slate when it came to operations. He had no preconception. So he went out into the field, spent time with the key people, and understood, took all of his first impressions from the back door to the front door, came into the home office and completely flipped their HR programming, their recruitment and training, and started building that long-term vision of working with the people who are here, that work for us, that love us, that believe in the concept. Let's not bypass them because they don't we don't think they're capable, and we're recruiting, and we've got all this management from the outside because we feel like that's better. He tried to get it away from the individual and build from the team that are here that love us. They're capable. They're more compatible, but they're less capable. And he spun that around, and they, over the years, developed a very positive work environment, lowered their turnover, and kind of taught the industry really what some of us needed to be reminded of what's most important. And he used all of that with sport analogies and how coaches did it right. He would use, and of course, being here in Texas, this is kind of fun, that he would use the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones as an example of everything not to do. The idea of micromanaging, the idea of trying to run the plays from the top. And Jerry Jones has been accused of that he wants to be the owner, but he really wants to be pretty much everything. And in spite of themselves, they seem to trip and fail. And although a lot of people here in Texas are just diehard fans, they continually complain that they underperform. And I'm sure it's like one of us going into our units and being frustrated that we continually underperform. We're not handling our numbers right. We're not handling our guest service right. And we typically will find that maybe it's the image and direction that's coming from the top. Well, that certainly is what happens, I think, time and time again, season after season in Dallas. Not being a big Cowboy fan, I find humor in it. But, I'm in the minority of this state. Are you kidding? Everybody in this state is like, live and die with whatever the Cowboys are doing. And they really wouldn't mind sending Jerry Jones to some other country.
There's a couple of things you were saying there other than laughing at the Cowboys. The thing about the player who was really small and undersized, what got him there was heart. And I think there's that little bit when I often talk to businesses and when you've worked with global businesses and you then work with small businesses, sometimes the small businesses have got this mindset that we can't compete. Well, actually, if you've got heart, if you're willing to work and you put the determination, and you can do amazing things. And I really like that story. And then when you talked about the strategy with the baseball team, I think there's something where so often in business, people are really short term, right? We need a quick win. We need to get profit now. I get it. But when you've got that long-term plan, you get long-term results. And I think that the story you told about that, I think is really, really amusing. And then in a positive way, because I wish more people saw that, Chris. But also when you were talking about Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, and rumor has it that he's still trying to pick the cheerleaders, I saw it on a documentary. There's that little bit where if you're the owner of the company, don't micromanage. Get people in who are really, really good at what they do and trust them. And I think there's that little bit where sometimes you see the owners of the company tinkering all the time with stuff that they don't necessarily understand and get in the way. And I think it's a really good example of, how not to do things. And I think we've all shared really positive examples of how sport, we've learned from it for business, but also think, when people get it wrong, you can learn from that as well. And I think your example of the Cowboys is one that I'm sure most of America will be smiling and laughing at.
Well, yeah. And Richard, in the short period of time, some sport analysts make the comparison that within that conference that the Cowboys are in the very short term, the last 4 or 5 years, his coaching has deteriorated. His play, the people he selected have either deteriorated and left. Their performance has deteriorated. And of course, everyone's looking at him. In that same conference, we took a team that everyone used to laugh at, the Detroit Lions. And in 4 seasons, they started with a new general management, a new long-term selection process, and a coach that fit that process. And in 4 years, they've been doing like everything right. And their season has been wonderful, one step away from the Super Bowl. And in those same 4 years, the Cowboys has been going with this.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said too, Chris. Got me thinking, like, in the sport in particular, you could have the same group of people and just put a different leadership management in place, and you could get a collective sum of a different output. In sport, it's easy to see, like, all right, here's your talent. You win this amount of games. But you get a coach that can find a way to mold those players to get different output. You can achieve greater success that comes with that, which I think is fascinating. And part two, I'm very thankful for those Houston Rockets championships. As a New York Knicks hater,
Yes.
official leader of the fan club, thank you for Akeem, and then for Clyde, and for those great Rockets teams. But in all seriousness, there's so much connection there, especially like, you can feel it too. You get a good leader, you feel motivated. It can just change your whole energy on how you want to go about doing things. And players feel that too, even if you're making millions of dollars. If there's leadership and there's accountability, like it just changes everything.
And maybe that impacts other industries, but obviously those principles impact ours. I mean, how many times have we been faced with that where you see that where again, the unit is underperforming, things are inconsistent, guest services are down, poor comments, are up, numbers are a mess. We study and we realign, management, and the direction at the top becomes more positive. And before you know it, the people, the line cooks, the people out front, the counter servers, the people that maybe previous management were throwing their hands up in the air saying that's the problem. They're not working well together. I gave them the training, but they're not learning, all that they. You change the message from the top and the personality at the top, and then all of a sudden they're performing. Customers are happier, service is better, place is cleaner. So yeah, there's a lot of commonality that we see what happens when general management and ownership work together to bring in good coaching culture in sports teams, and what we can do when we bring in good leadership to restaurant units.
Exactly.
Well, it's funny, Chris, while you guys were talking, that's exactly what I thought about was, great, there's fantastic coaches, managers, owners, etc. But just because a team's not winning doesn't mean that the coach is bad, even the manager. It just means it doesn't fit. There's not a fit. There's not a gel. There's not an alignment between the vision, the mission, the core values, and the decision on how we're going to achieve. And that coach may not have the type of players that he can get the best out of. And there's just so many moving dynamics there, right? I think there's parallels to the restaurant industry. There's so many personalities and positions and placements and availability and timing, but it's not just because the coach got fired. And I kind of am annoyed that so many brands in the U.S. American football business today, a coach used to be, you gave him 7 or 10 years, 5, 6 years. No. Now it's like, good luck if you get 2 seasons. And if you're not a Super Bowl winner in 2 seasons, they're firing coaches that have gone to the playoffs 3 and 4 out of the last 4 or 5 years, and they'll fire them. It's like,
in the rumor mill, they start talking bad about them. Your point's well taken. You used to have maybe 7 seasons. Now, after like 7 games, already people are talking about, we got to
fire people mid-season these days. Yeah,
we've had such a bad start. The first question is the coach going to make it till next year? My God, it's only been 7 games.
Right. But there's a good parallel there, I think, too. It's not necessarily there's something wrong with the coach or the quarterback. It's just that they're not the right person on the right bus, or they're not the right position in the right seat on the bus, to use other analogies.
Yeah. How many times do you see a quarterback go to a different team, get a new lease on life with a different coach, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, it clicks a little bit. It was I'll use
Trent Dilfer.
Trent
Jets. Dilfer left the Buccaneers, went to Minnesota, and went to the Super Bowl. The year he left Tampa Bay, not that year, the next year, Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl. So it's like both teams were capable. The player was capable of winning a Super Bowl. He just needed to be on the right team. And the team was able to win a Super Bowl when they got a new coach and a new quarterback.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great analogy.
I think the cultural fit's really, really important. And it goes back to something that you said earlier, Troy. Sometimes I think people are very, very quick. It's a shame Ian's not here to talk about, people hire for skill rather than attitude. And I think sometimes there's certain clubs where you look at it and you have to have the right manager to lead that club. And when you do, amazing things happen. It's no different with businesses. You have to understand the culture and get the right fit. And I think there is something about hiring quickly, but also I think there's something about hiring well, but also looking at it and going, is this person the right fit? How are they going to bring this? How are they going to bring us forward? How are they going to keep the culture but evolve it to make it even better? And I think what's really interesting, when you go for that results-led, very quick win, then do you quickly hire the wrong person? It's a really, really interesting question there.
Hey, what about this, you guys? I mean, what do you make of the attraction? Because maybe there are so many similarities, but the attraction for sports celebrities, the moment they start getting a little bit away from their sport, they immediately jump into our business. Everybody wants to be a nightclub owner, put their name on a steakhouse, invest in a chain of pizza joints. I mean, it's like every football player, basketball player, thinks that, John Elway, has still got his place in, Denver. There's what is the Walk-Ons has got a small group, led by Drew Brees, I believe, and a ton of New Orleans Saints are like their primary investment group. The moment you go into a city, you start looking at, in Austin, for example, the Texas Longhorn all-star, but who didn't do really well as a pro, Vince Young, he's got his restaurant.
John, this brings a really good point, though, doesn't it? And I was going to touch on this, is if there's one thing that sports teams are masters at, is the power of brand. And I think over the last few years, what's grown out of the team being the master of brand is actually now the individuals are becoming equally as big in terms of brand and brand equity. And I think it's part of that where when you get investors, thinking about people like Cristiano Ronaldo and stuff like that, you get investors that invest into their name just so that they think that's what's going to fill a restaurant. And I've seen it around, but I think back to that piece around brand, myself and Richard are both sitting here in merch. Our t-shirt on that's a collaboration with a different brand. They've got sponsors. They've got people trying to be there. Troy's got a garage full of I've got programs that go back to when I first went to watch football at 7 years old. I think there's all of that bit, isn't there, that then becomes an example of how that merch and that brand and that ethos can go through. Like my nephew has a New York Yankees hat. He's never been to New York in his life. He doesn't know anybody who plays for them. He just thinks it's cool because his mates are walking around in those hats as well, right? So I think when we're looking at business, we're looking at brand, like how they get that almost obsession around brand, around how people walking around proud to show the badge, is a real testament to how they develop it.
And I think where it's really interesting, if you look at Leeds, I think, are they owned by the San Francisco?
49ers. Yeah, 49ers.
What's really interesting when you talk about brands is if you look at sport, you and I both know that if our team made it to Wembley in a final, we would be opposite ends of the stadium hating each other for 90 minutes. And it's because you create these raving fans. And I think what's really interesting when you look at it as a business perspective, how can you get those raving fans? Because the raving fans are the people that are going to make you 3 recommendations. Raving fans are going to come to you over and over and over again. And I think the parallel between the hospitality and sports is, how do you create those raving fans? How do you create those moments where people want to follow you wherever you go? And, I've had the privilege of watching my team home and away. I've watched England play home and away. And there's something really special about traveling hundreds of miles or jumping on a flight to go and watch your team play. There's that extra special thing. And there's a little bit of me, I wish I was in Paris tonight with the Arsenal boys. There's 2,500 fans that have gone to Paris to watch our team play tonight. And there's that little bit where you've got that passion. How can you bring that passion of supporters to our businesses? And I think that connection is something that, when you're talking about people that set up restaurants who've come from the sports industry, they understand how to create that almost rabid fan, because I think there's something really, really special there.
Yeah. And programming note for everybody: Friday will be Shawn will be back. We're going to be talking Mother's Day hospitality is on Friday. So for those in the crowd listening, audience here, put that on your calendars. And then Wednesday, gearing up for NRA. I know a lot of people will be going there. I know in the Rising Tides community, leave a note if you will be there. I'm sure Shawn would love to connect. I believe there's a late afternoon meetup. So that'll be awesome. Richard, you came to me with this topic. I think it's been awesome. It's been super cool to get everybody's opinions and thoughts and see all these different parallels. Has been really great. So thank you to everybody who's participated. And
I've
yeah,
been
go for
corrected,
it,
by the way, in the chat. Ian is listening. He is live streaming, watching us, and he made it clear that Dilfer's from Minnesota, but he went to Baltimore. Yes. So there it is. Ian,
should have caught that. I should have caught that.
Fact checking that apparently has a personal connection to his pain points. Right? We remember those things. Look, I got a few people that I hate in the world because of the losses against the Hurricanes or something like that. But you're exactly right. Raving fans will travel for you.
Yeah, I should have. Thank you, Ian, for the sports fact checking. Should have caught that. Now I'm going to get frustrated at myself for the next couple hours. Tip, takeaway, homework assignment. We'll go around the room. We'll start it off with you, Troy. Tip, takeaway, homework assignment from you today.
Yeah, I think you got to find inspiration where it resonates with you. If it's it's sports or a sports team or a particular coach or a particular player, a particular era, or it's something else. But I think having sort of a foundation of something to lean back on and look at as inspiration to consistently remind yourself. You know, it's natural that the sports analogy and the coaching analogy comes to me on a daily basis. That's how I was raised. I was raised in a world around discipline and this type of world. But if you weren't and you're searching for that, or you resonate with some other structure, that's okay. But it just comes down to having structure and systems and people to look to as mentors. And I was showing there on the screen, I've already downloaded the audiobook, Legacy by James Kerr, and I'll be listening to it today. I have a 2-hour drive to a dinner event tonight, so I'll be listening to it today and gaining inspiration from a whole new source. So I think it's important to do the homework and apply those lessons in your day-to-day life, even if those are micro lessons, to improve yourself and your business.
Nicely said, Troy. And Richard, thank you for the recommendation for me earlier and to the group today is awesome. Scott, you're up. Tip, takeaway, homework assignment.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I'm going to check out Legacy. I think there's obviously lots to take from there, and I think there's lots of similarities between the two, and it's just about finding what works for you and your business as well, and taking that in and applying it. I think the coaching conversation was super interesting for me because I think there's lots of bits that you take away from that, good and bad in there, and there's lots of examples around from there as well. So yeah, great topic, good one, and good luck, Richard, tonight. Hope the lucky shirt works.
And by the way, about Scott, just let's all take a lesson from Scott, that what you do is you brainwash your children from very young on to be deathly afraid of this deity that sits on a blue throne on your shelf. And now he's taking it away. But I'm sure if they ever misbehave, that little man comes out and maybe they wake up in the middle of the night. It's sitting on the headboard or the nightstand of their thing, and they have an opportunity to be reminded about this deity he's always watching. So good on you, Scott, for having a symbolic.
You got to find discipline somewhere.
Chris, tip, takeaway, homework assignment.
I think a good takeaway from this is for me is that I want to take from the sports analogy the flip side of the coin. We talked about the impact, of course, positive impact, team building, positive culture. I want to spend time on, because I think it'll help me with some of the things that I'm working on learning from that heart of a champion on how quick they overcome disappointment, because they don't win every game. But they come right back. You know, we obviously don't accomplish as much as we want, maybe with every client. Not every shift maybe fires on every cylinder. So when you take a look at some of the sport analogies that we made, I think what I want to dwell on is how to reach deep very quickly, like they have to. Because if you're a ball player and I'm watching you and you go into extra innings and you lose that game, but it's a doubleheader, you got to play the next day. No one's got time to really dwell too much on what went wrong. You got to reach in, you got to learn from it, and then the next day, bingo. So I think that's a good tip, is that zero-sum game kind of thing that professional athletes have that maybe we can learn from?
That's great, Chris. I'm going to let Richard finish, so I'll start here actually as a takeaway from that. And I'm so glad you said that, because I know for me, be vulnerable here, one of my biggest faults is if something doesn't go as I had planned it or as I thought it would, I will dwell and I will think about it. And I think that's really great, because the best say, shit happens. What can I learn from it? Move forward. So I think that's very poignant. And I'll remember that. It's really great. And just this topic as a whole, just thinking about that culture, and that resonates with me, and understanding that, the sum is definitely greater than the individual.
I
So
got to
very,
check out for now because I got to grab a 1 o'clock. So it was really good talking with you guys. See you Friday.
thank you, Chris. Richard, we'll let you close us out here, and then we'll see everybody again on Friday for Mother's Day hospitality.
Well, this is such a great topic, and the greatest coach in Arsenal's history is a guy called Arsene Wenger, who went an entire season unbeaten, never been done in the Premier League, and he did it. And he retired, and they said to him afterwards, "So, do you remember the victories, like the celebrations?" He said, "No, I remember every defeat. It's like a scar, and it hurts." And I think what's really interesting from that, I think back to when I used to pitch a lot, and I remember the losses and their scars. What can I learn from them? How can I be better? What I also learned from hearing him speak was to make sure you enjoy the wins. So I learned from the scars, I learned from the defeats, but I also learned from the wins. And actually, when you win, you need to enjoy it and you need to appreciate it. Otherwise, what are you doing? And I think there's something that our greatest coach has taught me, that really valuable lesson to appreciate the good times and learn from the hard times. And it's something where sport is such a special thing. Business is a really special thing. And there are all these parallels. And hearing everybody's opinions today, my takeaway is to watch more sport. Clearly, come on, Arsenal, let's beat Paris tonight.
I'll be rooting them. I'll be rooting for them, Richard, for you. I still don't really understand how, when you lose, you could go to a different league thing. I'm gonna need info. I still can't quite grasp that.
You know what? Imagine there's no draft. Okay, so you've got 20 teams, the best 20 teams in the country, and the bottom 3 teams at the end of the league get relegated to another league, and the 3 best teams in the league below get promoted. And that jeopardy is what makes European sport different to US.
Yes,
because there is that jeopardy every year. So if you can tank and get number 1 in the draft, and Cleveland do it every year, but there is that reality where if you tank in football, and Scott knows this, his team have come up as champions. He knows that his team have to finish 17th or above, otherwise they're relegated. And when you get to that top league next season, if he finishes 17th, he'll be a happy man.
One follow-up, because I'm interested in this. Would it be okay? Would a championship, if you were relegated, and I'm going way off topic here, but I need to know the answer, and you went down a league and you won that league, would that not be as satisfying as if you were at the top? Is it like we just won in the middle kind of thing?
Put it to another way.
I'll take this one, Mike. Yes, it is, because that's what happened to us. And 300,000 people went to the streets on Monday as the team went round on the bus to celebrate the going into the top league. So it's just as satisfying.
Interesting.
But what's the difference is now Scott's team are going to be eating at a 3-star Michelin restaurant.
Right.
Hey, Richard, can I say something? I've just done some research with ChatGPT because I always knew the number was low. From 1980 to 1993, 14 football seasons of college football, the Miami Hurricanes lost 19 out of 143 games. That's an 87% win ratio. Wow. So not among professional sports, but among college sports, we have a major dynasty to uphold. And I always knew it was a low number. 19 out of 143 games. That's a pretty rare. When you talk about growing up and you win 100, I think whatever the delta between those two is, 19 minus 143. When you win, 120 something games and you only lose 19 out of your 14 formidable childhood years, it's deep, right? I bleed orange and green. Anyway, just wanted to bring my facts to the table as we all share our percentages and numbers.
Troy, that's a beautiful thing.
And we are wrapping up. We'll have Ian come in here with the live fact check if you want to. If you
There
want
it
to stay, but
There
Ian,
it
good to
is.
see you. I want to make sure I get you on the stage. But yeah, great conversation, everybody. And again, Friday we've got Mother's Day hospitality right here again on StreamYard. So for Richard, Scott, Ian, Troy, and for Chris that was with us a little bit earlier, thank you all, and we'll see you on Friday.
Thanks, Ian.
Cheers,
See you guys.
Great chat.
Yeah, of course. Take care.
Hey, Ian, I just want to make sure I got you on
Hey.
stage for the 1 second.
Oh, no worries. No worries. I went to Michael's leadership webinar, so I was checking that